Hi guys, and welcome back to Gladly Global, where we provide you with methodology and accountability for people self-studying languages or trying to learn multiple languages. Yeah, I know that it's gotten a little bit krångligt, men anyway, this video today I'm going to be making is about how I learned or how I improved my skill from A1 to C1 level within 1 year, more or less. How you can do it too. Maybe talk about a little bit about my mistakes and what I wouldn't do again, because there was some time that I probably could have used better, or some time that I was studying but I was missing the point of what I was actually studying. If this kind of video interests you, or there's some other things you would like to know about some other languages that I speak or whatever, leave a comment down below from now so that I will put it on the list. By the way, this video was voted for by you guys in the Gladly Global server, so if you want to vote for the next video or give a suggestion or anything like that, make sure to join our free online language community in Discord, where we post all this kind of stuff. I should say that I started studying Swedish seriously in January 2020, and that was on my own, and I was planning to embark on the exact journey that I'm talking about right now. In fact, I wanted C2. I don't remember exactly what I had said, but I think the idea was to become as fluent as possible in a year. Needless to say, that didn't happen. I'm currently C1 just about, almost, just about. And I definitely underestimated. I would probably give myself 2 or 1.5, something like that, depending. I should tell you that I did start dabbling in the language long before 2020, something like 2017. I was just dabbling where I had some friends who would teach me random words. I knew how to curse. I did Duolingo like once every 5 months or something like that. So I was most definitely still A0 when I started learning Swedish again. But I did have some exposure to the language before, and I did a few things like get used to the alphabet and do some immersion with the way that Swedish sounds. So it's something that I did before January 2020. What I was actually able to do on my own. So from January 2020 until August 2020, I was studying Swedish entirely on my own. And at this time, I honestly did not get past, so from A0, I didn't get past A1. Actually, it's possible I could have passed an A2 test, but there were still a lot of gaps that I had in my A1 knowledge that I didn't realize. And a lot of that is because I was studying Swedish from an Asian language perspective, which I didn't have a full grasp of how different it was to study an Asian language versus a European language, or I should say a Romance or Germanic language. And of course there are differences in between those two, but you get the general gist of what I'm saying. Yeah, I didn't realize how different it would be, and my approach was probably not the best, especially since I think I also didn't understand what A1, A2 really encompassed. Because in an Asian language, you are learning grammar, a new grammar structure every week for like the rest of your study experience. But in European languages, it's more like you have this base framework, and that framework you start to learn from day 1 and you finish in A2. So now that I'm in C1, we're not learning any new grammar. We've already learned all the grammar, but of course we have to practice and go over and go over and go over. But in general, we learned all of the grammar in class within the first 3 months, if that much. And so I didn't realize that, and I was taking my sweet time with the grammar, thinking that it would be lasting forever, but actually I should have been focusing on building a core base of grammar and moving on from that very quickly in the first area. How I studied in the beginning is I went through Duolingo, and if you don't know, Duolingo has like some feature on desktop where you can read through grammar points, etc. I tried some other things, but I didn't really like how they explained. I also realized that my textbook that I had the I don't remember what it's called, but I'll put it on the screen, this one, and I didn't really like it at all. I couldn't understand what the book was trying to say to me. If I had Restart, I probably would have understood a lot better, but I didn't, so yeah. Especially for A1, A2, and B1, B2, I suggest getting the Restart books, especially the workbooks, because the explanations are very precise and clear. So yeah, that's what I was able to do on my own. The second phase of my Swedish experience journey was moving to Sweden in August and starting with this Swedish course. So one of the things I love about being courses, especially when I have great teachers, is kind of learning about languages and my own way of receiving and understanding languages through the different things that these teachers, professionals, suggest. And I could tell immediately that their concepts around studying languages, around how to force immersion and force someone to learn language at an accelerated rate, was very different from what I was used to with Asian languages that have no similar roots. So this course required you to speak English at a C1 level, the least, in order to take it. And so they were in a big way depending on English, not teaching in English, teaching entirely in Swedish, but depending on the fact, like expecting you to understand quicker because you already recognize certain patterns and things from English. And that certainly was a help. It was a bit shocking, and not everyone did the best. I should also mention that this course, I'll put it on the screen and in the description box below also which course I'm taking, but this course, it is the most difficult and intensive course in the entire humanities faculty here at Lund University. So it is extremely fast-paced and extremely demanding. So the goal, either way, to learn Swedish in 1 year, which is the idea, that was their plan. They take you from A0, or supposed to take you from A0 all the way up to C1, with a certificate at the end that allows you to work or go to university in Swedish. And so this certificate, this course, is already extremely ambitious. And to think that I thought that I would be able to do that without a teacher altogether, without some kind of vigorous time course, because basically I'm spending at least 30 hours a week on Swedish, at least, at this point. And to think that I thought I could do that, I could do C1 without that, is now very humbling, and I see the full stretch of what it really means to be C2, C1. So what the course has provided for me is, one, forcing me to repeat and practice grammar that I already understand. Something that I really don't like doing is going over things or reviewing things. I'm very bad at review, especially because I'm the kind of person who likes to know something and move on. If I understand it fully or with depth, then I feel like I don't need to continue on that thing. So I usually try to skip fast very quickly, but this course has forced me to go over and go over and go over and use the language and practice and know the details and the rules, which I also usually don't like to do. I like to know things through nuance, know things. I have a communication bias, a speaking bias. So the problem with that is that you can speak, but you won't have details solidified, and then it will be difficult to read and write and it all kind of connects in some way. But the point is that they forced me to focus on the areas that I'm weak in. I said those details and vocabulary, which helped me to improve my argumentative skills in Swedish. So not necessarily speaking in person, but casual speaking, but it helped a lot with the areas that I wouldn't really get in my normal environment, in my normal lifestyle. Which leads me to what the course didn't do, which I think is the only downside to this course, but considering how much they do, it makes sense. But it is not focused on speaking or communicating or figuring out natural Swedish. So it is very heavily focused on academics to make it so that you are able to conduct yourself in an academic or work setting. And so they don't focus on that at all, which I actually recommend. I think it's vital that you focus on it in the beginning. So during the first level, what I did is I complemented the course's structure with a lot of watching Swedish TikTok, Swedish YouTubers, Swedish movies, Swedish TV shows, Disney shows in Swedish, etc., etc. And what I tried to do was start to copy and formulate the feeling of Swedish. And having that basis in the beginning helped me then to absorb the information that I'm learning in class, that the details that I'm learning in class, at a much faster and more comfortable rate to be actually used in sentences and stuff. I found that that was the only thing that was lacking, and that there wasn't enough suggestions for that in the way that I thought made sense. So if you take the same course, or if you're taking any other course, you need to know that your first priority is to start to feel comfortable in Swedish. Because once you're comfortable, then the other details will start to fall into place. And when you learn new things, when you're forced to learn new things, or what have you, then you start to function in the language a lot faster and absorb things at once instead of wasting your time. Okay, that was it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm really proud of myself for coming from A0 last year to being here, C1 with you now. I may have had a little bit of hiccups along the way, but I hope that this was an honest reflection and an honest picture of how my studies were. And if you have any questions about it, leave me a comment down below. There will also be links to our language lounge where you can vote for the next video, as well as our Ko-fi page where you can support me if you like this video, or perhaps buy the Polyglot magazine, which has all sorts of amazing tips. And for the next one, I'm even thinking of interviewing my Swedish professor if you're interested in that. Let me know in the comments down below, as usual, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Vi ses!